Hi, guys. I'll be your representative face until Darcy gets here. I mean, if you want to see tanks, I can. Sorry about that. Just blows everything out.
Hello.
Okay, well, good night time for you.
I know. It is.
Thanks for staying up. Excuse me. Do you have to work in the morning early?
Oh no, is my sound off? I think my sound's off. Whoops. It wasn't working on my computer, so I had to use my phone.
I can hear you.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
Yeah, no, now I can hear you. Because I turned off my sound.
do you have to work in the morning?
No, I've been working for the last 7 days, so tomorrow's my break, thankfully.
Good.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I work retail, so yeah, everyone knows probably how it goes. There's no rest for the wicked and all that, but yeah, so it's been pretty
How is
full on.
COVID affecting that in Australia?
Um, well, where I live in my state, COVID's not too good. All the other states, a few of the other states have no active cases, so Australia is pretty good for COVID right now. But my state, unfortunately, is a bit behind everyone else. So, we're currently in stage three, which stage three is you can only leave the house for four things: food, like groceries, work, medical bills or like appointments, and then exercise, so like walking. And restaurants are closed except for takeaway, and gyms, I believe, are closed as well. And so it's kind of like lockdown, but with some flexibility. So I think it's very similar to the US.
Yeah, that's roughly what it is in New York State. And mask, we always have to
Oh, is it a requirement to wear a mask?
in my state. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, because here it's recommended, but you don't have to wear it if you don't want to. But yeah, so it's pretty interesting, but what are you gonna do in these times, I guess?
I'm gonna pop off because I'm getting an echo from you.
Oh
But
no,
there's
fair
some
enough.
questions
Oh,
if
is
you
there already?
want.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I've got to
Thank you for being here.
multitask.
I'm sure Darcy's coming.
Sorry, I just realized those questions. It doesn't come up on my phone. Whoops. Okay, let me see. Sorry. Okay, so Jessica, the safety. The method that I used was um hey Stacey. So the method I used when doing my background was I used an egg crate sheet along the entire back and side wall. So this was used as a foundation. I then used expanding foam on that. So I didn't actually use any styrofoam sheeting, but I sealed it by using concrete. So the concrete, I got this idea off a few reptile and amphibian forums where the concrete is used to seal it, and due to concrete basically being like a rock, the crabs aren't really able to break through it. So I used concrete and then siliconed coconut fiber onto that. So that's how I did it. And so far it's been great. The crabs have picked a bit at it, but it hasn't broken through. And so far it's been good. Oh yeah. Jennifer, feel your pain. Did the concrete make it heavy? Not really. I could still kind of lift it by myself. I've got an Exoterra um, large extra tall, so that's a 3 foot by 1.5 by 2 foot tall. I could kind of lift it by myself, but it was a lot easier to have two people. It did make it heavier, but not by much because I only used about three thin coats all over in all and all, so made it pretty easy. Hey Darcy,
Good morning.
good afternoon slash night for me.
Sorry.
And yeah, Mary, I did use it on this back and sides. Primarily, it was just on the back of my tank. And what I used as a base of mine was expanding foam. So I don't know if you've caught on, Darcy. I was just giving a brief introduction of my method that I used. Um, which I used an egg crate as a foundation. And then from there, I then used expanding foam on that and then covered that expanding foam with concrete and then used silicon and EE to make a layer on that as a concrete. I got an idea from the reptile and amphibian groups. So the crabs haven't really been picking out that one. But I don't know. What is your method? Is your method similar or did you use different?
So I went straight onto the glass of the aquarium.
Oh,
Yes, and so it takes some good prep ahead of time and thinking ahead of time, especially if you're going to use some large pieces of wood and things like that. This is the tank behind me here.
oh yeah, looks good.
So yeah, I like the idea you're talking about where it would be removable. Is that right? You can remove yours and move it to a different tank, or
I can with a bit of elbow grease. It's not really removable because I've got mine in an Exoterra similar to yours, but mine is kind of wedged in there with the use of the egg crate. And I could technically remove it, but it most likely would crack. I reckon I could remove it if I cut it, but I don't really want to cut it yet.
I think that's what I'd like to try next, is to figure out a way to be able to remove it, just because this is the baby tank, so I don't have any fears about the crabs pinching at it or anything like that because they're so tiny. But I have a little bit of concern putting in with the big crabs and how long it would last, and then what do you do if you need to repair it and things like that. So I'm kind of toying with the idea of how to do something removable. But I mean, I just take it straight on the glass. I use the Great Stuff. Can y'all see that? That's what I use.
Yep.
And then you kind of just have all your plan in place, because this stuff starts to dry pretty quickly. And just put your things in there, and it has to dry completely. After you do that, then you have to kind of shave down the glossy top of it. You can at that time carve in different kind of caves and things like that, which I did. And then the messy part is the silicone and the eco earth, and you have to really, I think it takes more than one person. Did you do it by yourself, Jay? Hey, Kelsey.
I did. Kelsey's all right. Yeah, so I did mine myself outside, and then kind of lugged the tank inside with the help of family.
Yeah. You have to work really fast with the silicone. It dries really, really fast. And so in order to get the eco earth really stuck on there, I would just suggest doing a little bit of silicone, eco earth, a little bit of silicone, eco earth. And did you guys mix any sphagnum moss in with your eco earth?
No. Oh, kind of later on. If that makes sense.
Did what?
Did you add sphagnum moss with the eco earth when you put the?
No, I in my forest side I have the cocoa fiber, but and not any moss or anything.
Okay.
Sorry, I just had a cat come in and decide to scream.
Yeah, Stacey, that was the case for us too. At our first time that we did that, we did not. We didn't get the eco earth moss kind of mix on the silicone quick enough, and so it ended up in this tank actually ended up falling off pretty early on. But the silicone is there; it's just the pretty eco earth part isn't there anymore. The other thing that, and I don't know if you guys experienced this, but we used clear silicone the first, or white. I'm sorry, we used white the first time. We ran out and then used clear. And so then you can see the Great Stuff, or it just looks white when the eco earth falls off. And so the second time that I did a custom background, I used brown silicone, and that looks a lot better. It's harder to find.
Oh, in Australia, it's impossible. I searched high and low for black or brown, couldn't find anything, and I'm like, I'm not paying for US shipping. So, no, yeah, I 100% agree with that one.
Yeah, I didn't even look, honestly.
Yeah,
I had a hard enough time trying to find silicone that was safe, so.
Yeah, have you guys talked about the silicone?
No, I was giving a basic rundown of mine because I had a few questions of what did I do, so I just gave a basic rundown before everyone else popped on. But yeah, so in Australia, there's not really much option for silicon, or silicone, I guess. We say silicon. But so I used a product in Australia called Sally's, which is aquarium safe. There's a few others. I believe there's 3M and Black Gold that is also aquarium safe, but Sally's is the most easiest to find. You can find it at Bunnings, which is like the Australian Lowe's and all that, and a few other hardware stores. So yeah, but it's a clear, takes about 24 hours to cure, so it can be pretty slow and it stinks like vinegar. So get outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. You need well ventilated room when you start the silicone. I ended up having to take some breaks. It is very.
Oh, did you do it inside? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, I do not envy you at all on that one.
Yeah, in Texas, it's so hot. I mean, it's 104 degrees yesterday here. Heat index was over 110. Yeah, so yeah, we just opened all the windows and walked away, wore a mask.
There we go. The mask is looking good.
Not as much as I should have. I was doing mine inside too in the basement, so yeah, it was a little rough. I was just looking for pictures that I can post in the chat, links to my backgrounds, because my tank has horrible lighting, so there's no point in me even going downstairs to try and show them.
I would show my tank, but it's currently nighttime here, so it'll be pretty dark. I've got pictures, which some might have seen in my talk, if they haven't, but if not, I've got some pictures floating up around the web, and I can also upload it to the Facebook group if it's a lot easier. But yeah, fortunately, I can show you my aquarium because I did a great stuff background, kind of. I'll just gotta turn it on. Yeah, let me just turn it on, because that way we can see at least something. Oh my god, there we go. Okay, where are you, buddy? There you are. Okay, so it's currently bedtime for them, so okay, how do I turn around this camera? Never mind, I'm just going to do the old-fashioned way. So here's my tank. The planted tank. So basically I did rocks and then great stuffed them in place. So then I could put sand or aquarium gravel underneath to grow some plants at the back. So that's how I did it there. This was my test run of using great stuff and all that and a crate, and then I just kind of applied that to the crab tank. So this was my trial tank. So it's safe once cured. Great stuff and all that is safe for animals and all that. I know there's some concerns that some people have had talking about how it might be toxic, but once cured, it's safe to use. People use it in their reef tanks. Just thought I'd mention that just in case.
So there's a question pinned at the top, you guys. Does it affect your heat mat? So the built-in, the spray foam that you guys have, do you have a heat mat behind it?
Well, I'm going to kind of out myself here. I actually don't have any heat mats on my tanks. I actually use a ceramic heat emitter type thing. So I'm a bit unconventional, but it could. But I'll be interested to hear everyone else's responses, because I know that probably you guys more likely to use a heat mat, so that'll be interesting.
I have my backgrounds up in my topper, so I don't actually have heat mats behind them. My heat mats are on the base tank below that, so unfortunately I haven't noticed too much.
Yeah, that's the same for me, Kelsey. It's up here in the topper, and my other experiment also was in the topper. I don't have that tank here. It was at school. But yeah, again, there's no heat mat up there. But I think if you have a really big tank and you need a heat mat at the top, so on my 125 next to me over here, I have a heat mat on the top. So I don't have a spray foam in that one. And that's actually one of my concerns, and one of the reasons that I haven't put it in is because I'm not really sure what would happen. So on this one, I oversprayed. I don't know if you guys had that problem with your first time around, like way too much great stuff, and be prepared. It really, really, really expands. And so I oversprayed the great stuff originally, which made it like thick, really thick. And so it took days to dry. And on the back of the tank, you could see how wet the great stuff was. And so I actually ended up putting a fan and using my hair dryer on the back of the tank to try and dry it. And so I'm kind of concerned because if you put a heat mat back there, like it did affect the great stuff foam. So I don't know. Once it cures, maybe it will be okay. I'm not experienced in that. Maybe somebody else knows.
Yeah, my heat pad is on the side, and what I'm trying to show you right here is, can you see the glass in the back? They've dug all the way through the foam right there and hit the glass. Yeah,
They're making their own caves.
So did you just?
they've got
Yeah.
ledges and tunnels and flower pots, but right there, they've dug a hole all the way to the glass and they collect in there.
It's kind of cool.
But they leave the foam is left behind for me to clean up. They don't eat it. And they're doing a little picking at the top too. This is hard backwards. But I mounted flower pots in mine, ledges, soil logs. And it's only half of the tank because this is my vertical tank.
There we go. Oh, God. I'm back.
That's awesome.
Sorry, phone trouble.
I love it, Stacey.
So Stephanie asked about building backgrounds on a sheet of foam or chloroplast and try and make it removable. And I did actually build mine on sheets of foam, but they're so heavy, especially the beach side, that I still silicone them in because I wanted to make sure they wouldn't fall. So yes, you could. It would be a good idea. Just depending on what materials you use, you would have to be careful as to whether the tabs would actually hold it up well enough, especially if you have heavier crabs and the climbing on it and everything. That could pull it off really easy too.
Yeah, that would be my concern too, because I have some pretty big pieces of wood in mine. So, or if you use the flower pots like Stacey was just talking about, those would get pretty heavy too. Worth trying. I mean, we all learn if we can try things.
Phone troubles.
So somebody do it.
Sorry. Having the struggling Australian over here.
It's all right.
Oh my God. Technology.
So we have quite a few of you
don't
guys
kill me.
watching. What are your questions? Have you tried? Have you run into some problems? How can we help you? How can we help you?
Hey, there we go. I think it's working. Okay. Sorry, I'm using mobile data, so it's a bit like, woo. Yeah, that's what I was just noticing, Mary. So I think I fixed it just now. But let me know if it's still happening.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Sorry, I think I might have got a bit of echo from my phone. Sorry. Plus, it's me struggling. It's nothing changing. Ugh.
You know, warning had to happen.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I need bed. Because I just noticed a question from Sue. She's in Australia, and hardware stores here, for whatever reason, don't know why, they don't actually sell egg crate or lighting diffuser. So if you want to buy it in Australia, you're going to have to go to like a store that sells plastics or aircon or like an air conditioning type of store. I know that in the US and whatnot, it's a bit more easier to source. Don't know why it's here. I had trouble as well, so it took a bit of digging. So you might need to do some digging in your area.
Jessica. Wow, there's still an echo. Sorry. This little net over here. Is.
Is that me? Sorry if it is. these.
Let's see.
So if I could do something differently, Stacy, I would have silicone the wood pieces, or if you want to use the ceramic pots and things like that, silicone them to your background first so that they don't move, because when you first spray in the spray foam, it's really slippery. And so the pieces were sliding everywhere. If you guys watch my YouTube video on it, like, I was a mess. It was crazy. And then I had to try and tie it, and I used the whole like light fixture in the ceiling to try and get the piece of wood to stand up. So 100%, guys, just silicone all of your big heavy pieces where you want them first, and let those, completely secure before you put in your Great Stuff foam. And then the second bit of advice would be less is more. Less is more, because the Great Stuff expands tremendously, and then it's a lot of work to then shade out, all that excess that you're not wanting to use. And so, yeah, those are some of my tips.
Let's see. If I could do mine differently, I would have ordered a lot more spray foam, and I would have been much more careful. So I discovered that if the spray foam is past the expiration date, it will not work at all. And so I had at least 2 different cans. And I mean, these are, I think they were like $10 a can or something like that, that were completely useless. So that was extremely frustrating. Yes, it's my cats are wrestling and I can't get them to stop. So sorry. Anyway, I would also try to do it outside, and I would also be extremely careful about if you can't do it outside and you're doing it inside, put like a sheet or something that you don't want underneath it, because I definitely have spray foam on the carpet in that room now. So, and that stuff does not come back up.
Yeah,
yes,
I know what you mean. I got spray foam all over my clothes, so they became home clothes from then on. What I would do differently is just to get a bigger tank. I realized after that is that the tank's a bit too small for my liking. But also the ledges as well. I made ledges out of spray foam, and I realized that kind of the way that I made them, the ledges I should have made was bigger, so that way I could have had a bigger ledge, because in the end it kind of got masked by the background and whatnot. But I do agree with everyone else. A little bit goes a long way.
Yes.
Yeah, I also got silicone all over like 5 different t-shirts, and that stuff doesn't come off either. So I made a whole huge mess.
Yeah, I found the silicone part to be messier for me, and I think I just wasn't prepared at how fast it would dry and how quickly I was going to need to work. And so you're wearing gloves, and you're spreading. I thought I was going to be really nice and just so nicely. No, it doesn't work like that. I was just squirting it out and then rubbing with my gloved hand, and I'm trying to pack on the Eco Earth as quickly as possible. It was a big, huge disaster. But yeah, so you have to have like all your ducks in a row, guys, to have all your products ready and help. Like, honestly, if you could have help, it'll be easier for you. If one person could be doing the silicone and the other person putting on the Eco Earth, that would be great. So.
Stacy also asked if you can reuse the spray foam if you don't finish the can. And in my experience, no, it dries coming out of the little tube that they include with it. It dries coming out of that, and it ends up being completely useless. So you do want to plan on using all of the can, or if you end up, you'll end up losing one pretty much if you stop midway. So.
I know with mine, if you can cap it early, it can make a difference, but I used it only with about 12 to 24 hours in between. So I don't know if that has an effect. Anything longer, I do agree that you might have issues, but yeah, generally not.
I kind of like the idea of paper mache as specifically for something that's meant to be short term, that you hide some treats in it or something like that. Like crabs like to destroy things so much. I mean, make fun little shapes or something for them specifically to destroy. Why not? Kind of like parrots.
So, how does silicone heavy step to the back? Spray foam, carve dry foam, silicone. Oh, yeah, Dan, that's a great idea. And I ended up doing that on my first one, where I had a hard time with my larger pieces that I didn't silicone ahead of time. That's kind of what I ended up doing afterwards. So yeah, that's a great idea. Stephanie's wanting to know if Elmer's glue is safe. Stacy? Kids eat it. True. Oh, what do you want to use the Elmer's glue for? I'm curious.
I would put Eco Earth on just to make it look nice, at least for as far as I went.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, the paper mache. Oh, Serena. Can't get her on the video. So if you guys haven't tried the sphagnum moss in your Eco Earth for the finish, I would suggest it. I think it really gives it a natural look, and the crabs will eat it anyway, and just gives you some more 3D and texture kind of look. And you can make it heavier in some places than others. So where I carved out caves, I took silicone and on the back glass of the tank and put a bunch of moss inside of that cave. But, you know, eventually that'll be gone because the crabs will eat it. But they'll still have a nice cave.
It's interesting because I put in like rocks or gravel when doing the concrete and use that as a layer on top as like the visual interest, and that also they use it to climb. But I didn't decide to use sphagnum as much as I probably should have. So that's really interesting and good thing to notice because yeah, they do love to destroy it regardless.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Were you answering hers? You can understand it breaks down in humidity. Are we talking about the spray foam or are you talking about the paper mache?
It's the glue, the Elmer's glue. I might be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I have my entire beach side is all like the back, and one side is all lava rock. And I chose the lava rock thinking it would be lighter, and they're still so heavy.
Why do you put Eco Earth on? What does it do? I think it's mostly aesthetic. Because really, once they climb on it, it can rub off. And so the silicone is really what is sealing the great stuff and making it safe to be in your tank. And so that's why you put the silicone on first and be generous with it, guys. Like really do a good job with your silicone. I probably used 3 tubes in this topper of silicone. So it takes a lot, but I have caves. Like I have ledges and caves and stuff, so I want to make sure I got those covered really well. But then, yeah, the Eco Earth, and for me, the moss, it's really just aesthetic so that it looks more natural. You know, this is yellow, And so, depending on your silicone, if you get clear, for sure you're going to want, I mean, I don't know, maybe you want a yellow background, but I just wanted it to look more natural, so that's why I used it.
The Darcy's, but mine was more for plants as well, as I use epiphytic plants, or plants that grow on rocks or wood or up high in nature, so they don't need soil. So I used it as a medium for them to attach their roots to as well, as it retains a bit of moisture. So my thinking was very similar to yours, but different outcome.
Yeah. Okay, so if we spray foam directly to the glass, can you repeat how you held it up?
I siliconed mine.
I used an egg crate as a basically structural piece.
Siliconed your
Yeah,
pieces?
so I used an egg crate along the entire back wall, all the back wall, and then spray foamed onto that. So the foam actually is inside each individual hole of the egg crate. And so the egg crate is kind of like the bones, and then the spray foam kind of just clings in there and holds on. So, and when it expands around the egg crate as well. So it goes behind it too. So it creates a really good adhesion to that. And I tried to, even when ripping out, to get rid of the glossy. That took a bit of work, and it didn't ever like even slide out or pop out. So it really stayed in place because it expanded to the tank and also to the egg crate as well. So that's how I did mine.
Yeah, just I didn't do this in my first one, but I have in the others that I've done since. It's to silicone all of your whatever you're wanting in your background first, so your wood or your pots, little plant pots, or whatever your main structures are going to be in your background. Silicone those to your glass first, and then great stuff around it, and it held. I mean, it's held great, so I haven't had any issues with it.
Yeah, I tried. I sprayed all the grate foam first, and then tried cutting into it so that I could silicone the corkboard pieces I was putting in for the forest side, and it was such a pain in the butt. Like, it worked, it finally worked, but it was so much harder than if I had just spray foamed around it, honestly. So I would definitely do that differently next time too.
Because using the egg crate also made it easier because I got to zip tie everything on. So I didn't use any really silicone until the outer layer. So that silicone in Australia is a bit expensive. I don't know if it's the same in the US. So that was also part of my reason. Zip ties are normally like, what, $1 for a pack? So I got to zip tie all the pots and whatnot to that. So my reasoning, I try to keep it on a budget, even though it didn't really work out. But yeah, so it's interesting. But yeah, I do think the silicone method is a good one.
What did I about to say? Something else to be careful of is don't get too carried away with how much stuff you want to put in it, and especially if you're not building directly onto the tank, make sure you keep double checking whether the background will fit in place. It can get a little tricky if you build it outside of the tank and then try to put it in. It can get a little tricky fitting it in if you put stuff that's too far. I ran into that issue with my Troya wall. I had some pieces that were kind of sticking out too much out, so that they ran into the ceiling and stuff. So it ended up working because it was a nice tight fit, so they helped keep them up. And especially the same thing with the rock wall. I was really happy that it was such a tight fit because I was so anxious that it was going to fall or crack the glass or something because it was so heavy. But yeah, having the tight fit helped, but you want to be careful about it because it's a very delicate balance.
Somebody was asking how thick the foam generally is. I thought, Erica, yeah. How thick is the background generally? So really, this is going to depend on what you're wanting to create in your background and the different structures that you're wanting to put in there, because you do want it to be supported. So I have a piece of cork ground that's like this long, but it sticks out vertically, and so I had to have a pretty thick background to support that much weight. And also, I wanted to carve out ledges and caves in mine, and so I needed enough foam to be able to do that. But you don't have to do it that way by any means. I mean, you could. The second one that I did wasn't nearly as thick. It was maybe this thick at the end after I had done all my carving and everything, because it was going on a much smaller tank, and I didn't want it to protrude. It's a topper, so I don't want it to protrude into the bottom tank, so it looked awkward. So really, it's kind of preference, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I agree. Mine was pretty thick because I started out with styrofoam boards that were already like that thick, and then built on top of that. So, but I had enough space in my toppers to work with it, honestly, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But it would definitely depend on your tank and how much space you're wanting it to take up. So
Mine was rather thin because I used the egg crate as the structural part. So if I had a thick piece of wood or whatever, I'd kind of make a little box around it with egg crate. Or if I wanted a ledge, I use an egg crate to make the ledge. So all in all, mine was about, oh God, now I'm going to have to do the conversions from centimeters to inches. Probably about at most 2 inches, if that. So most of mine was pretty thin. So it made it a lot easier, and hence why I was a bit more lightweight. But yeah, I do think that, at least with my method, the way that I used a lot of the dart froggers or the reptile keepers info from that. So that's why I used egg crate, because I used egg crate to build out structures and whatnot. So that was my reasoning, to keep it thin and whatnot.
Awesome. Another question was about how many cans of great stuff did you use? Again, I think it depends on the thickness you're looking for, the size of your tank. Those are big factors. This is a 20-gallon Exoterra topper, and I used a can and a half on it. It expands a lot, and I really probably didn't need that other half of the can. I mean, really, I probably could have done one. But I have, 2 really, really big pieces of wood structures in there, so that takes up a lot of space. So I don't know that we could really give you guys like a hard set rule of how many cans you would need, but buy extra so you have it and you can return it if you don't use it, would be my suggestion. Really, the great stuff goes a long way. A little goes a long way. It's the silicone that surprised me, the amount that I needed for that.
I ended up using, I think it's same as Serena, 1.5 as well, cans. But one can was a bit dodgy and it never actually set. 7 days and it didn't set. So I don't know what happened with that one. So I ended up having to scrape that one all out and then redoing it. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a can that never set, and I would be poking it every day. My finger would just go whoop straight through, and I'd be like, "Oh, great finger, great stuff." Yeah, I don't know. I just think it was just a dodgy batch, but it never set, so it was a bit hard to say because that kind of is hard to factor in. But yeah, I saw a question just before, asking about why we carve out the shiny layer. I know you discussed that a bit before, Darcy, with it's just basically, for me, or for a lot of reptiles keepers, it's to add texture, so things adhere better to the texture. So the texture is the air bubbles. As you peel it away, it adds bumps and ridges and whatnot. So that allows things to attach to.
I should have done more curtain. But I think at that point it was probably that I was losing patience with the entire thing, honestly. But I did have a little bit of trouble with how I had I had a lot of trouble with the foam being so uneven that I found it difficult to carve personally, but I also don't know if there are better tools for using to carve it. I think I was just using like some steak knives or something. So there's probably better tools than that, I'm sure. I don't know what you guys use to carve the foam.
Actually, I just use a serrated knife. Yeah. Now, I'll never be able to use that in my kitchen again. But if it was, I don't know if you use a serrated edge, but I didn't have trouble with the carving. That part was, I think, the easiest and most fun for me. So maybe it is a tool. I don't know. The serrated edge, I think, was a bit, because I started with just a straight edge box cutter, basically, with just the razor part. And that was horrible. It just drugged the foam and like peeled it in chunks, and it was very frustrating. But I'll sacrifice the kitchen knife for the crabs tank, and so that
The least of our
worked out.
sacrifices.
Yes.
This tank
is 29 gallons tall.
Crystal asked if the crab the styrofoam, if it's used as part of the background, and so far I have not noticed mine picking at it at all. Stacy said that hers have dug at hers, but that didn't seem to be eating it. They just left little piles of silicone as they picked away at it. So I think they would probably, I mean, it's always a possibility with anything you put in their tank, but if you keep an eye on it, I don't think they generally would, especially because they have plenty of other things in the tank that are usually are edible. So.
Yeah. I see a good chat going on about the kind of silicone, and if you guys are Lycos members, then you could do a search, and there's pictures and links, and I'm pretty sure Stacy linked it up above in this chat as well, if you guys, so that you can see the exact kind of silicone. But yeah, it's been talked a lot about in the Lycos. If you're not a part of Lycos, come join Lycos. Lots of great info over on that Facebook page, so join. Let's see, styrofoam. I have some styrofoam in mine as well. That's what the ledge is that you can see right here. It's a piece of styrofoam that I siliconed under at the back of the tank, and then heavily siliconed it and put that's the brown silicone actually. That's why it's still so brown. So if you can find the brown silicone, guys, that is the way to go for sure. But it's held up great. So this is 29 tall, so it's only 12 inches deep. And these are 20-gallon exoteres, so it's 18 inches deep. So that's why I had to do the styrofoam ledge, was to cover up that gap. And it's worked out great. Of course, this is my 2018 captive bred baby tank. So they're just little crabs in there. Approved, Jessica. I don't know how to do that, Mary. Oh. Okay. I found the brown silicone. If you guys are from the U.S., I don't know if you have them outside of Texas, but Ace Hardware. That's where I found the brown silicone. Serena. Like just down the road, probably Serena. Anything else, guys? Crazy.
I would try, if you can't do your local hardware store, Jessica, to try look online. I find online you might get slightly better options. So Amazon, eBay, uh, I don't know what other platforms, Craigslist. Oh yeah, I heard that's pretty popular. So yeah, I would try to look online for things. If you can't locate them, you can normally either find a network online or find items online.
Also, you guys, really, if you want to take on this task, you can tag. I'm speaking for you, Kelsey, Jay, Serena. Sorry, guys, but I mean, you could tag us in the group, and we'll be happy to help you. As you know, don't feel like you're alone. So,
problem or
run into a problem or.
Yep, 100%. I agree. Because I know that we did slightly different methods too, so it's also good to bounce off type thing. So, what one method you might go, oh, this might work better for your applications or what you're planning to do compared to others. So, I do 100% agree. You can speak for me. I agree with that one.
I don't pay much attention to the Facebook groups that they shared, especially right now, but I'm hoping to get more involved again. So I keep an eye out for questions, or feel free to tag me. It's the best way to get my attention, and I can help as much as I can too. You've got a lot of people that can help. And that way everybody can learn from it too.
So,
Sorry.
yes, yeah. Troubleshooting, no, you're right, Kelsey. Yeah, us helping you guys troubleshoot, everybody learns from it, so that's awesome. Dan, so are you saying, so the 30 extra tall is 18 wide, and then your 55 is 12 inches wide or deep? Is that what you're, is that what you're talking about, a project?
Say that one more time. Cats are being very annoying this morning. I wish they would go outside.
How did I stabilize my topper? Okay, so yeah, great question. All right, this is very technical. Not at all. Okay, so I use just the Velcro adhesives, and I cut them into small little squares. I put them all along the edge of the Exoterra topper, and then the other end all along the edge here. Well, you keep them together actually, right? So pick one side or the other. You have your little square Velcro patches all along the edge, and then when you set your Exoterra on top of your main tank, the other side of the adhesive Velcro sticks to it. And then I now have a tank that I could take off if I need to, but it's very secure on there. And then for humidity, I take clear packing tape and I just run it right along the edge around the whole tank, just clear packing tape. And so if I ever need to take this off, it's really not that difficult. I mean, the packing tape leaves a little bit of residue, but you know, you pick it down.
I didn't think that was
Hey,
gonna work.
Jessica.
Hi.
You,
Yeah, that's awesome how you did that.
That's what I did to this one too over here. I mean, that one doesn't have a spraying foam, but anyway, I attached it the same way.
Is it hanging over the edge then of your bottom tank? Is it like this,
This
or
one, yes. This one, yes.
Yeah.
The other one, no, because it's a 125, so it's 18 wide and 6 Exoterra, so it fits exactly on top.
yeah, it's massive. I did my topper, but I have to have it sideways, and I'm gonna have, I think, like 14 inches on each side, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna do that. Probably like thick corrugated plastic to make like the shelves, but I haven't gotten around to it. But it's heavy because I did only stones. I didn't do foam on this one, and I have a ton of rocks. I put it in the group. I think it weighs probably like 35 pounds, so pretty heavy.
Yes, I used the sticky Velcro as well, and I just did straight strips like for the entire length of both of them, all the way around. And my base tank had metal support, so that actually was perfect because I could still do Velcro securing that side of both my Exoterras, and I haven't worried too much about taping the seam just because my Exoterras are so heavy that I don't think there's really any space for humidity to escape at that point. But something to keep in mind with the Exoterra tanks is, and you can kind of see the strip on Darcy's tank behind her, there's ventilation strips next to the doors. Yep, Australia. So I did have to put tape over those because those are actually ventilation holes. So I had to tape those up to help with my humidity, but you can also then untape them to help vent if you need to.
Oh, cool. It's so pretty. I want to get a topper like that I can have doors on it because I'm going to have to like, so I'm putting my topper that sits opposite at the very end, and then I'm going to have my doors for my tank and like stick my arm through and under and up if I have to do something. I want that.
Yep. That's why I wanted to get Exoterras too. I did not want to deal with them. I mean, and I had to do acrobatics anyway, especially after my tank flooded. I had to try and get in there to get all the substrate out. And like, it's lucky I'm small because I could literally like lean in through the opening. And but, oh my gosh, it was not fun. And I think my back was like ready to kill me. It was very difficult, but it was still less difficult than it would have been trying to,
Yeah,
do all of the puzzle region.
I feel you. Did you guys already share the link for your video, Darcy? Is it in here yet or no?
I think Stacy did.
They should pin that on here. That'll be good for whenever they run this live session again because that's like super informative. I used that when I started and took your advice of like siliconing like the cork bark down before foaming around it, and that was like a lifesaver. Yeah.
Also, and I think I put it on the video, Jessica, I can't remember. I haven't watched that video in a long time, but something else I learned, you guys, that I would do differently now. When you spray in your grape foam, do not go all the way to the edge of your tank. Leave a little bit of space from the sides of your tank because the foam's going to expand. Unless you don't care if the sides of your tank can see the grape foam. If that makes any sense.
You can point that out in the video, like you made an edit.
Okay, good. Because I think on this one side you can see it. Let me see if I can show y'all. So on the side of your tank, you can see, I don't know, can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Right here?
Mm-hmm.
See the yellow? Okay, so I knew that side of the tank was not going to be visible, so I didn't bother with it. But this side I knew would be, and so, whoops. Sorry, guys. All right, so over here, can y'all see?
Ooh,
There's no.
it's pretty.
So I had to leave enough space over there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a downside to my using the foam boards to build mine on. Is you can definitely see it on the side a bit, where at the front of the tank you can see that pink styrofoam board that I used as my base. So not terribly attractive, but.
And I've seen some people just decided to like paint the side of their tank. You could do that.
Oh, here you are.
Jessica Keen. I found that big piece of wood at Chewy.com. Yeah. If you don't shop at Chewy, go to Chewy. They have great stuff.
I've seen also people use black or brown silicone as well to hide it instead of painting. So that's also another option if you want to do that, or using a black cardboard paper, like that really thick paper, kind of cutting it out and sticking it on. That's also another option if you want to allow it to be ripped off, so that way it's easy if you want to change up the tank for whatever reason. So yeah, there's a few options out there, but the painting's a lot easier, I find.
Darcy, I do have a question for you. So your video, you make it look ridiculously easy. And I was watching your video, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I was like trying to spread the silicone with the gloves. And my glove kept getting caught, like it was drying faster than I could keep up with. How were you able to like spread it and make it look so nice and easy? I couldn't.
Yeah, totally. That is the hardest part
Okay.
of this project. To me, in my opinion, for me, the silicone is the hardest part. So, in the two tanks I've done since that video, Brooke and I like tag team it, right? So I spread a little bit of silicone, she puts on the Eco Earth. I spread a little bit of silicone, she puts on the Eco Earth. And it has to be that fast because that's how quick the silicone dries, and that's why your glove is dragging in it, is because it, yeah. And I think more.
Okay.
If you have more silicone, it's easier to spread. So like I said, I used almost 3, I don't know, what do you call the tubes of silicone?
Right, like the caulk ones, the big tubes with the caulk gun. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you have more of it, it's like easier to
Yes. I also found the same thing of just, I actually just grabbed a cheap paintbrush to sacrifice to the altar of the crabs. And I found the same thing of I would just spread a whole bunch of like a huge pile of the silicone and then just use the paintbrush to paint it over and then get the Eco Earth on it right away and just kind of did section by section that way. That was the easiest way I found to do it.
So did you use brown silicone too, Kelsey and Jay, or no?
No, I use clear.
And how'd that work for you after you put the Eco Earth? Did it stay, or can you still see some of the pink? Yellow. Mine's pink.
Well, actually, well, let's see. For that one, I used the background that came with the Exoterra.
Okay.
So, I think there's starting to be some parts coming through, especially with the crabs climbing on it and everything. But because the background that they include is kind of already colored to look kind of foresty, like rock, wasn't that big of an issue for me. So.
I don't know about you guys. When I was doing I had bubbles, like air pockets. Did you guys get any air pockets too? I had a massive one, and I'm like, I guess that'll be a cave. And I'm sorry, Jay, I was asking if you used brown or regular. I'm sorry.
Myself on mute and unmute because there's a bit of audio issue, so I'm keeping it very DIY. But I use clear because in Australia, clear is really the only option. I tried to look for black or brown.
Okay.
I couldn't find anything, so yeah. But I just used, similar to Kelsey, I used a paintbrush and kind of like dabbed it on a bit here and there, and I found that works best for me. But for some reason, silicone took forever to cure for me. But it might be just Australian silicone or something. It's a bit slow. So yeah, but Australian summers, or at least when I did, it was more like spring. So it was kind of cold, more humid, so it takes slightly longer because you guys might have done it more when it's warmer or whatever. So that might have been part of the issue too. Keeping it cool allowed it further time for it to cure.
I don't know, anything of mine that I use silicone, it takes about a week for it to cure and not have a smell. And well, I'm from Texas, West Texas. Yeah, I miss it. Dry heat, high temps. And then I'm here and it's humid and muggy and everything takes longer to set and to dry. So I think I'm with you on that one, Jay. It took ages for everything. My pools take forever to set for me.
Jessica, I'm glad you brought that up. So the curing, the smell of it and everything, guys, make sure that you leave your spray foam background, whatever tank you're doing that in, it needs to be aired out until you can't smell that strong smell anymore. It probably is going to take different depending on your own environment where you're living and everything. But for me, as Jessica, it took a couple weeks of letting my tank totally air out before I could attach it. It is very, very strong smelling. So make sure you give yourself that time.
I've lost probably a ton of brain cells with the stuff that I've been making for my shop and whatever, and it was too hot or it was rainy outside or it was winter, so I was doing it upstairs, and I was in here all day and I had a fan going and I had the windows open, and my husband came in. He's like, oh my God. And his eyes were watery. And he's like, how are you breathing? I'm like, what? He's like, you don't smell that? But I think it just killed like my smell for a few days. I didn't know. I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad. Maybe it's better silicone. No, it's just, I probably killed something I shouldn't have. Oops.
Misting it and then letting it dry repeatedly speed up the process to air it out. I wouldn't mist it, I don't think. What do you guys think?
I'd be scared of molding or like it retaining the moisture in pockets and then running into problems. I would leave it. And even if you did mist it and let it dry, I think it'd inhibit the setting process. It'd make it take a lot longer.
Yeah, I agree.
After it's dry and you attach it, I will spray. Like I have moss in this one right here. I don't know if y'all can see. There's moss in this cave cork round, and if I'm having humidity issues up in this topper here, I'll spray down that moss in that piece of wood, like mist it, and that it works great. And there's no problem. Once your silicone has completely cured, then that would be okay.
Agreed.
I do agree, because like misting it, it's not really, for example, like super glue, where misting it actually quickens the process. It's silicon. It's kind of got the same applications, but it's different chemicals used. So misting it, I agree with everyone, doesn't really make it quicker. Would it hurt it? I don't think so. Maybe if water kind of gets underneath it, it pulls it to bubble up, but I don't think it'd really do much. I think best bet is a fan blowing on it, keeping it outside even, and keeping it warm. That's probably the best way to go about getting it to quicken or not smell like vinegar.
Yeah.
Jessica, you asked about air bubbles.
Yes.
Earlier. Yes, definitely. I think they're kind of inevitable, maybe, because that's kind of the characteristic.
But like massive? I mean, I'm talking like tennis ball size. I got one. I probably messed it up, but it was huge, and I just did the cave. But it was so everything else had set and it had hardened, and I'm like, okay, like I'm good to cut it. And I went to cut, and in that bubble, it was still gooey and stringy. And so I tried cutting it, and then I had to smear it along the sides and then carve it later. But I don't know if you guys ran into that, because it was like a gourd, the inside. It's nasty.
I didn't run into that issue with my backgrounds, but I used some of the grape foam to make these like little stacks kind of thing of clay plant pots, and I ran into that issue with that. I was using the grape foam in between them to help hold them together and make it sturdier. And when I was trying to, so I spray foamed it, and I was trying to carve it down so that it would be flat so I could stack. I had a level of 3, and then I was going to be stacking 2 on top of that. And as I was cutting that away, because it was so deep, I think it hadn't dried fully, and so I ran into that issue of having it be all gooey and needing to give it more time to dry. And I think I lost whatever it was I was using to cut that. I think it was just a straight razor or something, and that went bye-bye too. But
So how long did you think it took for yours to properly cure that you didn't have that bubble or gooey part that you ran into?
I think initially, I think I let them dry. Gosh, sorry, my memory sucks. I I think I tried to carve it the same day first, and then when I ran in the gooey section, I was like, all right, whatever, and I left it overnight. And then I feel like the next day it had hardened a little bit better, and I could keep going, but don't quote me on that. I can check my Tumblr and see if I have anything about it.
Oh,
Yeah, for me, waiting the 24 hours, I think is a good idea. And if you look at the back of your tank where the spray foam is, you can see, or I could anyways, I could see that the great stuff was kind of gooey, you know, and so that's when I put a fan on it, and I got my hairdryer, and I started heating the back of the tank, you know, from the back side, outside of the tank, right? And that actually caused the great stuff to expand even more because it was so wet, right? So then I'd already started carving the front before I realized this. I ran into an air bubble like you're talking about, Jessica, and I'm like, what is this? Like this goo is coming out, it's stringy. Okay, so then I turned it over and I'm like, oh, it's not really dry all the way. So I used my hairdryer. Then all these like puffs of great stuff started coming out everywhere. But so a hair dryer works really good to speed up the process. Okay. But yeah, it is so thick that I think it takes a long time to fully cure, and you might have to do some extra things like I did to help that out. But once it completely is, you know, cured, then you can carve it pretty easily. I do think you're going to run into bubbles sometimes. Like I mean, I've done 3 tanks now, and even on the 3rd one, I still had that. So I'm like, I was hoping experience was going to help me with that, but I just think it's the nature of great stuff, like honestly.
I did an experiment because I was going to try to do like on foam board insulation, like make a background and then you could put it in your tank. And so I wanted to see how long that would take. And so the insulation's like this thick, and I just filled it full of foam like on top of it just to see how long, and that took, I think that alone was about a week and a half because you could just push on it a little bit and it just wanted to compress before it dried. So it does take, I think, a lot longer than what the can says. I think it's kind of up to our better judgment to. I should have known to look at the back of the tank, like you said. That's genius. I didn't know. I was like, okay, I'm carving, and I went.
If it looks like runny snot, it's not ready.
It's not ready.
Yeah, it's not ready.
That's fine.
Hey, Abby asked how our backgrounds are holding up in our humidity. Truly, I have no problems. I really have no problems. So so my second one that I did, and this is in the group, if you want to go search it, you can see, it didn't end up working out. It was an experiment for one of the teachers that I teach with at school. I put a tank together. So I put a 20-gallon tank next to a 20-gallon tank, and then I turned a 20-gallon tank upside down to connect them, right? And then I had 2 little glass pieces on the end, so the crabs could climb up and go down into the other tank. Well, I basically created a rainforest, which there was no way to vent because the tank was upside down. There weren't doors like this, you know, and then I couldn't like reach up into the tank to like wipe all the glass off. So it failed miserably. We flooded her tank within, I think it was about 4 months.
Wow.
So that'll tell you how much condensation can flood your tank. We were keeping an eye on it, so no crabbies got hurt or anything like that. Like we knew this wasn't working, and we were keeping a close eye on it. But it had a spray foam background in that topper, and the spray foam was totally fine. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. I can't use it because my experiment didn't work out, but yeah, it was fine.
So was it just building the humidity in between those 2 tanks to like make it like how did that? Why did it flood?
Yeah, so the humidity was going up into that 20-gallon topper and literally creating droplets on the roof of that tank and like truly raining down because I couldn't get my hand up into that tank to wipe it.
I'm sure the crabs liked that though.
They were up there all the time. All the time. Yep.
Now you got me thinking. I want a rainforest where it will not collect something.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Not the flooding, the droplets.
Yes. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, I reckon maybe the rainforest, you could kind of use that to your advantage and make like a little water dish underneath it. So it collects all the water droplets. And it'd probably be like a massive water dish, but I was just trying to think of like
Or a
ways
moss
of
pit.
how it could
Or a
work.
moss
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I always try to think of ways how I can overcome things so I can get it to work. Because I don't want to
Yeah.
redo it again. So if I can try to like DIY and MacGyver a solution, I'll do that.
I should try that. I should set it back up here at home where I can monitor, or in my own classroom. So my teacher friend, she's just starting in this hobby.
Ooh.
And so that was kind of like a lot for her to take on. So I was trying to take her my tank in my room and her tank in her room and my 6 tanks at home. And I'm like, okay, we got to do something more for you.
That would be really cool, though. I mean, there has to be something like your pools and then a moss pit, or I mean, if the crabs liked it that much, were they like becoming daytime active too, or no?
They were out all day up there. Yeah, her kids loved it because, yeah, they were always climbing around in the topper.
I gotta do it. I want the rainforest.
I warned you. I warned you of the
You
problem.
did. I'm gonna try it. I won't put any crabs in there. I'm just gonna try it with all the extra tanks I have that I don't want to get rid of because I'm hoarding tanks, and then we'll see how it goes.
Oh, uh-oh. Bye, Kelsey. Thank you.
Bye. Good luck with your kitty.
All right.
It's funny. I'm sorry I was so late, by the way. I thought it was 9:30 Central Standard, not 9:30 Eastern. I know the 2:30 thing's coming up, so I'm so sorry. I felt horrible.
No, no worries. No worries. Jay, did you say that you had pictures on Lycos of your topper?
I might. If not, I can post them. I've got them on my phone, and if not, it's easy to take photos also. I'll do that one. But I've got them floating around on a few of the forums, a couple of fish forums and whatnot. So you might have seen it around there if anyone goes on the fish forums or whatnot, and some of the hermit crab forums. It should be on them. But yeah, I should post it. I've been meaning to do it for a while, so it's good kick in the butt to do so. Yeah, Dan. Yeah, so that's one of them, and I think I've got him on Hermit Crab Paradise as well, another smaller forum, and Fish Law, Massa, which is in a marine aquarium group for Australians, and a few others. But yeah, so I should post it. It's a good kick in the butt. I need it, so thanks.
I'm trying the funnel.
Can y'all see those guys?
So lucky. Mine hide. Don't like me.
Mine only come out at 3 p.m.
You
Every
do
day.
not. I'm like ghosting.
No, I need to post it.
Aw, they're pretty shell.
Do they use a cat toy? I'm curious.
Is that a cat?
Yes,
Yes,
that thing is in a
that
different
thing is in a different
every morning. It's in a different place. This crab coming up to the window is the one that comes and greets one of my students every single morning.
Man. Mine hide.
He's a good teacher. It's better than some of my teachers.
Yeah. His class period every day, he comes straight to the tank in my classroom. And that little crab, he's not out, but he comes to the glass to, like, he puts his little claw up to say hi to him every day. It's such the craziest thing.
Sweet.
Just that one student.
I need a crab like that. Mine just run off when they see me.
Yeah, mine run away like Freddy Krueger. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I just want to love you. They want nothing to do with it. They're like, don't look at me.
I have to like kind of like dig through my bed and like peek over the edge to have a good look at them. Otherwise, they're just like, no, I'm out. I'm going straight back. And I'm like, guys, I've had you for a good couple of years now. Like, you can chillax. Like, take it easy. You don't have to run away. Let me love you, okay?
Just a little appreciation for the love, just a hi, and I'm happy. It's adorable.
Did y'all see the really big one? Let me see if I can open this so y'all can see it. I'm going to show you this big guy. I rescued him off Craigslist a year ago. He's so huge. He's grown so much this year. They kept this guy in his original beach habitat thing on rocks.
Oh my
Can you see him
god.
back there?
He's huge. Is that a 7-inch wheel, like the saucer?
Yeah.
Oh my god. You're the one shy. It's like,
How big's the shell? Like, how big of a shell does he take? Sorry, I got Aussies, so mine never get that.
That's a
2-inch shell.
2-inch shell.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Sorry, now I
Sorry, guys.
Oh,
He's huge.
yep.
He's huge.
I know. Big boy.
Yeah.
So
What's so crazy about that? He never had salt water. This lady had him in the original beach like carrier, no humidity, no heat, like this little tiny thing, and there were 2 of them in there. And no salt water, pellets, no sand. Like, how do they?
That's crazy. He's
Basically,
probably
the
taller
ultimate
than that.
Oh gosh, that's crazy. And then you get like crabs there in good condition, and they're like, you know what? No, I can't deal with it. It's just interesting how they work. I think PPs tend to be a lot more hardier than a lot of the other species, particularly like Aussies. Aussies, I find to almost be a bit more finicky compared to what you guys seem to report in the US. Like, you guys are just like, yep, they do fine. And then here in Australia, if it's not hot enough, they're like, you know what? I'm just going to hibernate for like 12 months. Type thing, and they just don't come back. Like, I have to keep mine at like 30 degrees Celsius, which I think it's about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Otherwise, I just like will just stay underneath the sand for like 9 months and just not come up. Like, it's interesting because, yeah. And then
So are those what species are you talking about?
We can't hear you. I think you're
Can
muted.
hear you. You're too much, Darcy. Still can't hear you. Honestly, we're not messing with you. We can't.
right, my mic
You
was
are.
off. My family needs to invest in one of these.
Okay.
So now you have to tell us again.
Okay, so where the Aussies come from, where they're naturally from tends to be dry and hot, or dry and warm. So they appreciate more of the heat rather than humidity. So normally above 85 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when they actually start coming out. Otherwise, they kind of refuse to do so. Well, you guys seem to go, oh no, they do great in like lower temps, but generally around about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But with my crabs, heat is the main thing. I find humidity, if it fluctuates, they don't seem to care as much. But if it gets like a degree too cold, they're like, no, I can't handle it type thing. They just run off and dig down and wait until it gets warmer, which is so interesting. Yeah, pretty much.
So, if you have Aussies, do they like to climb as much like the purple pinchers and stuff like on your background? Does it also
100%.
like for them?
Oh, 100%. One of mine loves to like just stay at the background in general, like all the time. they also like to swim too. So I consider them very close to the E's or the Ecuadorians in terms of behavior and general temperament, judging by what I read online. I've never kept PPs or E's, so I'm just talking from other people's experiences. So they're very similar to that. They're a bit crazy, a bit wild. They live up to the name of being a crazy crab.
Hi, Courtney. I don't know what Darcy is. There you are.
Yes, I'm here. See me? Jessica? Do you see me?
I see you now. I just muted myself so you guys don't get whatever it's called, the noise going back. I can't think. I had a lot of and I get up really early and feeling horrible. So I had a question for you guys and I can't remember it now. What are other options that we can put like into background, like the 3D foam backgrounds? Because like on mine that I was doing, I put a terracotta pot in there. And then, I mean, do you have any other cool ideas? The egg crate thing I think is genius.
On that experiment one that I was telling you guys about, that failed, that experiment, I actually Great Stuff foamed in a extra saucer wheel. Not the extra saucer, like the actual hamster wheel. So I took the stand of it and Great foamed that in, so you can only see the wheel on the outside. And then I just put a piece of cholla log underneath it and going to it so that the crabs could get up in the wheel. Yeah.
I kind of made like a little tunnel through mine. So it's like a tunnel that they can access the second level, so they can climb from the inside to get to the second level. And they commonly use that as a hide as well. Because when I went to the native range of the Aussies in Broome, Western Australia, right at the top end of Australia, they tend to occupy more the rocky outcrops and all that. They didn't really live in the sand dunes or whatever. They lived in rocky crevices where literally I didn't even know they had like shells like this fitting through a hole like this big. And I'm like, how do you get this into this? Like, it was just funny. So I kind of simulated that and they love that area. They all clam in like a bunch of clowns in a car and kind of stay in that little tunnel. So I recommend the tunnel if you can do it. They seem to love it.
That would be really cool.
It's a good idea, especially if you do it like on the back of the glass and if you ever get worried, you can see in the back and make sure that no one's stuck or something. I mean, I don't know how you'd go in there to get them out if they got stuck, but that would be really cool. What are we looking
Get
at?
it big enough so I can get my hand in. Oh, it's so cool.
So happy. Is that an E?
Yes.
I need one.
I know you've got a couple of different species, Darcy. What do you have again? I can never remember.
So I have 7 species. We have strawberries, violas, cavites, ruggies, purple pinchers, Ecuadorians, brevimanus. Yeah. I think that's all of them.
I want an E and a ruggy and a violet. But especially ruggies, like they look like the Yorkies of hermit crabs. Just these little tiny, I don't know, outgoing things. They're adorable. They got all that hair.
And I'm just wanting a purple pincher. I love them. And I can't
That's
get them. I'm always jealous. I've always said that. I'm like, I always wanted just a PP. They seem just so chill, so hardy compared to like all the other ones. Oh, I absolutely love the sauces that you got there. In Australia, you don't really have them.
They use them every.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure. 。 . You know the purple pinchers too. They have such a bright color. And yes, Dan, all your clings. Yeah, I love all the colors of the purple pinchers. They're so pretty, and they change a lot. Their colors change a lot, which is fun to kind of watch too. So the Ecuadorians and strawberries, by far for me, are the most active day and night. Strawberries and Ecuadorians are out in my tank all day, every day, all night. So.
Do you have a straw? I've had him for about a year, and mine loves to swim, like more than my Aussies do. Type thing. So definitely, I do know what you mean by the activity of the straws. They are crazy compared to my Aussies. Like they go wild. So I know what you mean by that one. Because Jessica, do you just only have PPs? Yeah.
I only have PPs. And they don't swim. They like to climb stuff, and they get kind of crazy, but they don't have like a set time of coming out. I was surprised earlier this week they actually came out at 6 o'clock at night, which is unheard of for me. And then they disappear for like 2-3 days. The two that I rescued, and then the other one. So in my 55, I had 3 crabs. Mary, the biggest one, had just gone down, the last to go down, but the first to come up. So I don't know. I'm terrified that maybe he found her buddies. She's a she now, I found out. But she came up, she ate a few days and then disappeared. And then she just came up again last night. So I don't know why they're being goofy, but like the moon phases, I know a lot of you guys see like increased activity, and mine it's like reversed. Or if it's raining, they seem like they're either going to be more active or not at all, and they'll just not even go for the food. They just get scared of I don't know what.
And then mine does like clockwork at 3 p.m. One of them does a lap around the topper. Oh, not really the topper, like the top walk I've made of my background. Another goes for a swim at every clock at 3 p.m. And then at 4 they hide again, and then they come out at about 7 p.m. and they kind of chill for a bit. And then they literally, it's like clockwork. They have like a little structure. It's like I've never had this before. I've had it for about a year going on to 2 ever since I built this tank. They're just structured days of sleep, active, swimming. And I'm like, guys, you can do that whenever type thing. It's just, so I had a good chuckle when you're like, oh, 6 p.m. unheard of. It's more like with mine, if they come out of the unset schedule, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like daylight savings?
That's funny. I haven't seen in any of my tanks other than this one Ecuadorian in my. They're here during the summer. These are my school crabs that I've been showing you guys over here. But yeah, that one little Ecuadorian comes out for that little boy every day, and that's the closest thing I have to a schedule, and that's the only one that does it. So.
I keep looking away. By the way, my puppy is being destructive, trying to be. Anyways, so I'm not ignoring you guys, rolling my eyes at you, just trying to get him away. So how many crabs do both of you guys have in total?
52.
Got around about 6 to 7. It's a bit hard to tell because a few of mine just bury and just dig and that's it. They only come up to like eat and then go straight back down. So they're like little miners type thing. But I see 4 on the regular, and then the other couple kind of pops up here and there, and then they go back down straight away. So it's a bit hard to give a great or accurate number type thing with mine.
That's including Brooks. So she I have a few more than her, but she's got a lot too. So she has a 90-gallon tank and a 75-gallon tank in her room, in her bedroom. So
that's cool. Are you thinking of maybe doing like another topper video? It's like I don't know, like the way that if people like me who can't get an Exoterra, like how to kind of set that up, because that'd be I think that'd be a really fun video to watch. I love your other one.
It's a good question. So I would probably need to test it out first and see if I can find a solution to the issue that I had on the last one. Because I don't want to flood people's tanks. And so, yeah.
Do you have a vent?
I did not have a vent.
I know. Sorry. If I was to ever do another tank, I would actually lean towards more doing a plywood build and kind of doing a custom tank, because in Australia we don't really have good options of tanks. Like a 4-foot tank, if you buy it brand new, will be in excess of $150, $200, while a 55-gallon, if you get on sale, it's pretty cheap there. Same tank here will cost $150, $200. So my current thing, if I wanted to go bigger, I'd have to go custom, and I'm leaning towards more plywood because the front opening doors are a lifesaver. I love mine, so mine would always be a plywood build and epoxy it and go full crazy on that.
We are planning out a crab room, and we're going to be moving all of our tanks into the crab room, and so there will be some fun, exciting things going on in that build. So, yeah, it should be combined.
So in other words, we're expecting good updates. Yes, I'm expecting updates.
Yeah, so we're going to take some of the talks that we've learned from here with the different substrate and lighting and bioactive plants and things like that, and try, especially because we have so many species, we really want to see what kind of research we can grab with all of those things that, we're all kind of saying, like, does this make a difference? Does it matter what species you have, as far as UVB lighting and the different kinds of soil and stuff like that. So we're hoping to incorporate some of those things and kind of see what happens.
Do plants? I'd love to see updates. I'd love to see everyone's planted tanks. It gets me so excited when I see planted setups. So plants, you're gonna have to give updates. I go crazy for plants. So updates.
You're choosing over the top.
Yeah,
That's funny. No, that'd be awesome. Crab room. And, I'm so jealous. I've got 2 tanks in our bedroom, and I told my husband when we get to our next house, I don't know if you remember, there was a guy in the group, and he converted half of his living room into like a huge tank for his crabs. I want to do something like that. And then I can like go in there with them. I want to have like a little walkway where there's no sand underneath, and I can like hang out with my crabs, but I don't think he'll let that happen.
Yeah, same, Kelsey. I've learned a ton at this crab con. I'm super. We were already planning on doing the crab room and combining everything. We had a lot of ideas, but after being here and hearing all these wonderful talks, I'm like, man, we have some great things to really try out and add to the research and. I would love, love, love if my hermit crabs would spawn at mate and spawn at school, so that my students could actually help bring crabs to land in the classroom. Like, how awesome would that be? Oh my
They would
gosh,
never forget
so
it.
cool.
They would instantly be advocates. Yeah.
I know. And so I have 6 different class periods because I teach all 6th graders. I have 160 kids in 6 different periods. And so each class period could have their own jar or crystal or whatever, however I'm going to do it. And then we can just see which class their method is working, and the other classes can make changes and stuff. So that would be super cool.
You have all these really cool plans. I'm like, oh, maybe in 4 months I'll finally get the topper on there, and then you're saying this, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see. Sounds so much fun.
I just need crab whisperer to just like come talk to my crabs and like convince them it's okay and they can do it and where they should spawn. Like
I think that little boy that's so attached to that crab should like be the crab whisperer and be the one to kind of like tell the kids what they should do, and then that crab, and they just like communicate back and forth, and then there'll be like a sensation, and everyone's going to want to watch, and then come to Lycos, and no one's going to buy hermit crabs anymore because you have a kid that talks to a crab and the crab talks to him. It's perfect.
Yes. Yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, Carrie says, what does my t-shirt say? This is last year's CrabCon. Read them and they will come. CrabCon 2019. I think there's more of these left, actually, if you like it. So, yeah, we drove from Texas to New York to get these babies last summer. So that's about 23 hours of driving.
Yeah, it's far.
So breed them and they will come. Yes, we will. We will.
Wow, how did they do on the drive?
How did they do on the
drive?
Hold on, I couldn't understand y'all.
What? Oh, how did your crabs do on the drive? How did that work?
Oh, yeah, no, it was great. They did fine. So we had a heat mat that, like, I had an outlet in my car. I have 4 kids, right? So I have a big car. So I just plugged the heat mat in, and I had a big, like, Tupperware tote, and then I put the little carrying totes that Mary gave the babies just inside that tote, and we just had gauges in there, and we held them, of course, because they're babies. So, like, yeah. We just took turns, all the girls. We would hold the babies.
I'm sure there were who's going to hold them because they're just so cute. It's little stringy legs.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's a far drive, like every year except for this year with COVID. We El Paso, Texas. Well, from here to El Paso, Texas and back, we do it straight, and that's, I think, 26 or 28 hours. It's horrible. I mean, it's fun, but it's horrible. Oh, Jay's phone died.
Yeah. Well, we made a complete like family vacation out of it and made tons and tons of personal bucket list stops along the way on the way there. And then on the way home, we just came straight home because we had the crabs. But Dan, yes, we did also pick up a Brevimanus and a Viola on our way home. So crazy story. I forgot to bring my Seacom Prime, and we needed to have that. And so we had to stop at a pet store on our way. And lo and behold, in Pennsylvania, there was a Brevi and a Viola that somebody had surrendered to this pet store. So, yeah.
I'm more than happy to help rescue them and adopt them. Yeah.
But the pet store, it was the coolest thing. They wouldn't just sell them to us. Like, we had to show them pictures of our tanks, and then they sent them to the original owners that surrendered them.
Wow, well, that's because the owner probably set that up. If only pet stores would do that, or at least give the right information, we'd be set. Yeah, we're in Pennsylvania, Dan.
My phone dropped to the floor, but I think I have the name of the pet store, so hang on 1 second. Okay. Let me see if I can find it. Serena, do I want to mention what we talked about before? We talked about so many things, I don't know which thing I should talk about. Guys, I'm going to try and find the name of that pet store for you. It was an awesome pet store.
I'm assuming it wasn't like a regular PetSmart or something like that. Like it was, that's nice.
Yeah. Well, and we stopped there because somebody in Lycos had mentioned that pet store before. And so we're like, let's go support them. And then
that's incredible. That pet place, maybe, is what Dan says.
I can't find them. Yeah, I don't know. If I can find them, I'll post it in the group, okay? Will that work?
That's awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for telling us. I mean, that's a cool story.
Sure.
I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I'm so sorry I got here as late as I did, but I mean, you're the one that has like the awesome toppers and stories. Yours came out so nice with your cork bark too. I couldn't get mine to like sink in and like mesh together like yours. Yours is slick.
Still doing it first.
The first time I didn't. The second time I did, but I don't know. Maybe the glass was too hot because I started this outside, and maybe I'm wondering if that's why I had the snot stuff when I was doing the foam. I think it could have been a little too warm because it either didn't want to come up to the level of the cork or it was like way over the top. So when I was trying to cut, I couldn't really cover some of the pink around the cork bark. But you guys did it awesome. Maybe I should do it inside.
Yeah, I did mine inside. And then I just opened all the windows and I had a fan going and I wore a mask.
I did. Okay, well, are we?
I think that's good. Of course, y'all can just tag us with questions on the group. Be happy to help you out.
I don't know if you can hear the kids. They're up and being crazy. So I'm gonna head out to go wrangle. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.